The crack of the bat echoed like a gunshot across the dusty field, but Gabriella's swing missed the ball by a mile, sending her sprawling into the dirt as the umpire's call sliced the air. Strike 3. You're out. In that instant, with her father's roar of disappointment shaking the bleachers and her teammates' pitying stares burning into her back, she felt her world shatter. Not from the loss, but from the lie she'd been living, her cleats digging into the earth like roots she longed to uproot. That humid July evening in rural Ohio, under a sky bruised with storm clouds, Gabriella Reyes knew she couldn't swing another bat without breaking her own spirit. She was 17, all gangly limbs and unspoken dreams, the kind of girl who had poetry in her sock drawer and traced ballet steps on the cracked linoleum of her family's trailer kitchen when no one was looking. Her father, Marco, a broad-shouldered auto mechanic with calluses etched like fault lines on his hands, had pinned every hope on her since her mother slipped away in a car wreck 5 years back. Softballs for winners, Gabby. He'd grunt over dinner, his eyes hard as the aluminum bat he sharpened in the garage. It's American. It's tough. It'll make you strong. But strength, to Gabriella, wasn't in the swing or the slide. It was in the whisper of silk against skin, the ache of a grand jeté that lifted her above the gravity of her grief. That night, after the game, she slipped out the back door while her dad nursed a beer in front of the TV, the static hum of a baseball replay drowning his sighs. The old pickup truck rattled to life under her hands, its engine coughing like an old smoker's lungs, and she drove the 10 miles to Milford's only ballet studio, a converted barn on the edge of town, where fairy lights strung from the rafters turned hayloft shadows into something magical. Ms. Elena, the wiry Russian émigré who ran the place with a cigarette rasp and unyielding precision, had spotted Gabriella's potential 2 years ago at a church fundraiser. "You move like wind over wheat, Devushka," she'd said, pressing a scholarship flyer into her palm. No tuition, just the promise of secrecy. Gabriella had nodded, heart pounding, and that was that, her double life etched in sweat and satin. The studio smelled of rosin and regret when she pushed through the door, her softball uniform swapped for a thrift store leotard that hugged her like a second skin. The class was midway through plies at the bar, a dozen girls from the wealthier side of town, ponytails perfect, postures impeccable, gliding through the motions under the baby grand's mournful melody. And there, in the corner by the fogged window, was the girl who'd been haunting Gabriella's thoughts since spring. Lila Voss, 18 and luminous, with auburn curls cropped short like a boy's defiance and skin the color of sun-warmed clay. Lila wasn't from money either. Her family's farm had gone under last harvest, but she danced like she owned the stars, every extension a rebellion against the dust bowls that had claimed her childhood. Gabriella slid into place beside her, their shoulders brushing in the mirror's reflection, a spark that made her breath hitch. "Late again?" Lila whispered, her voice a low melody laced with amusement, green eyes flicking over with a warmth that felt like sunlight piercing clouds. Gabriella mumbled something about traffic, but inside, her pulse was a fouette spin, wild and unchecked. Ms. Elena's counts barked through the air, and 1, 2, rise. And they moved as one, bodies sinking in a rhythm Gabriella had never found on the diamond. By the time they transitioned to center floor, sweat beading on her collarbone, Gabriella stole glances at Lila's form, the elegant arch of her back, the way her toes pointed like arrows toward freedom. It wasn't just admiration. It was a pull, magnetic and terrifying, whispering truths she'd buried deeper than her mother's ashes. As the class wound down, the girls clustered in giggles by the dressing room, trading stories of crushes on the quarterback or prom dresses from the mall in Columbus. Gabriella lingered, unlacing her pointe shoes with deliberate slowness, until it was just her and Lila wiping down the bars. The silence stretched, thick with the scent of lavender lotion Lila always carried. "You are on fire tonight," Lila said finally, tossing a rag her way. Their fingers touched in the exchange, brief, electric, and Gabriella felt the world tilt. "Thanks. You're incredible. Always." Lila's laugh was soft, self-deprecating. Flattery from the girl who could outrun a storm? I'll take it. They stood there, inches apart, the barn's creaks the only sound, until Lila's gaze dropped to Gabriella's mouth, lingering just long enough to ignite something unspoken. Driving home under a canopy of fireflies, Gabriella's hands trembled on the wheel. What was this? A crush? A phase? Her dad would call it confusion, blame the artsy-fartsy crowd at the studio. But in her chest, it bloomed like the wild roses choking the trailer park fence. Fierce, untamed, real. She parked in the gravel lot, the house dark save for the flicker of her dad's recliner lamp, and slipped inside to the sound of his snores. In her room, posters of Derek Jeter curled at the edges beside clandestine sketches of Odette from Swan Lake. Gabriella curled under the quilt her mom had sewn, replaying Lila's smile. Sleep came in fits, dreams of Tool and touchdowns blurring into a pas de deux where hands intertwined without shame. The next morning dawned sticky and unforgiving, the kind of Ohio summer that pressed down like a judgment. Gabriella shoveled cereal into her mouth while her dad scanned the sports page, his coffee mug thumping against the Formica table. Heard about that scout coming to regionals, he said, not looking up. You nail this season, Gabby, and college is paid for. Full ride. His voice carried the weight of his own dashed dreams. High school all-star turned mill worker when the knee injury sidelined him. Gabriella nodded, throat tight, the spoon scraping like nails on chalkboard. Yeah, Dad. I'll try harder. But inside, she was already mapping the lie. Practice softball by day, steal hours at the studio by night, her body a battlefield between duty and desire. School was a haze of lockers slamming and whispers about the big game, Gabriella's cleats echoing in the halls like accusations. She was the tomboy captain, the girl who could pitch a curveball that broke hearts, but beneath the jersey, her skin itched for the freedom of chiffon. Lunch found her in the library, nose in a dog-eared copy of The Bell Jar, until a shadow fell across the page. Lila, tray in hand, sliding into the seat opposite with a grin that could melt steel. Hiding from the jocks. Lila teased, popping a grape into her mouth. They weren't in the same classes. Lila was a senior, art track, the kind of girl who painted murals on abandoned silos, but the studio had woven their worlds together. Gabriella's cheeks burned. Just needed quiet. Lila leaned in, her knee brushing Gabriella's under the table, a casual accident that felt anything but. Quiet's overrated. Come to the river after school? Miss Elena's closing early for inventory. The invitation hung there, simple as a stolen afternoon, but laced with possibility. Gabriella hesitated, thinking of her dad's shift ending at 4, the practice schedule pinned to the fridge. I can't. Team stuff. Lila's eyes dimmed, but only for a second. Rain check, then. Don't let them clip your wings, Gabby. She stood, leaving a sketch on the table, a quick pencil rendering of a ballerina mid-leap, softball glove in hand, wings sprouting from her back. Gabriella traced the lines with her finger, heart swelling, as the bell rang like a starting pistol. That rain check came sooner than expected, in the form of a thunderstorm that canceled practice and flooded the fields. Gabriella texted Lila from the school parking lot. River? Her thumbs shaking as much as the thunder rumbling overhead. Lila's reply was instant. Meet at the old bridge. Bring your brave. The drive wound through cornfields heavy with rain, wipers slapping rhythmically until the rickety-covered bridge loomed, its timbers groaning under the downpour. Lila was there, perched on the railing in a yellow rain slicker, hair plastered to her forehead, laughing as Gabriella dashed from the truck. You came. Lila pulled her under the shelter, their bodies close against the chill, water dripping from eaves like tears. They talked for hours, or maybe minutes, time blurred in the storm's embrace. Lila spoke of her mom's endless shifts at the diner, the way painting kept the loneliness at bay. Gabriella confessed the weight of her dad's expectations, the secret thrill of the studio's first spotlight recital last winter. Ballet's my escape, Gabriella admitted, voice barely above the rain. Softball's his cage for me. Lila's hand found hers then, fingers lacing with a gentleness that stole Gabriella's breath. Then break free, Gabby. With me. Their eyes met, the air charged, and in that suspended moment, Lila leaned in, soft, tentative, a kiss like the first bloom of spring after a brutal frost. Gabriella pulled back first, not from regret, but from the avalanche of feeling crashing through her. Joy, terror, a love so vivid it hurt. "What are we doing?" she whispered, foreheads touching. Lila's smile was steady, a lighthouse in the squall. "Falling, I think. And it's beautiful." They stayed like that until the rain eased, promises unspoken sealing the air between them. Driving home, Gabriella's lips tingled, her reflection in the rear view a stranger, flushed, alive, terrified. The trailer lights glowed like beacons of normalcy, but inside, everything had shifted. Her dad was at the table, polishing his old glove, oblivious. "Good practice?" he asked. "Yeah," she lied, tasting truth on her tongue. "The best." Weeks blurred into a secret symphony, stolen glances at the studio, notes folded into point shoe ribbons, midnight drives to the river where kisses deepened like adagios, slow and consuming. Lila's touch was a revelation, fingers tracing collarbones, breaths mingling in the truck's cab, bodies learning each other in the language of whispers and sighs. Gabriella felt seen, truly, for the first time, not as the all-star daughter, but as the girl who burned for art and for this fierce, feminine love that bloomed in the quiet spaces. They dreamed aloud of New York, Juilliard auditions and garret apartments, hands entwined under star-pricked skies. But secrets in a town like Milford festered like untreated wounds. Whispers started at school, Lila's mural in the gym, a pair of dancers locked in embrace, called "too touchy" by the vice principal. Gabriella's teammates noticed her distraction, the way she'd zone out during drills, eyes distant with memories of tender caresses. Her dad, too, sensed the fracture. "You're slacking, Gabby. What's eating you?" She'd shrug it off with excuses, cramps, fatigue, but the guilt gnawed, a counterpoint to the ecstasy. The breaking point came on a crisp September evening, regionals looming like a guillotine. Ms. Elena had scheduled an extra rehearsal for the studio's fall showcase, a pas de deux Gabriella and Lila had choreographed in fevered secrecy, two swans entwined, mirroring their hidden world. The barn thrummed with energy, mirrors fogging from exertion, when Gabriella's phone buzzed, a text from her dad. "Where are you?" Practice started. Panic surged. She'd forgotten the time. "Go," Lila urged, pressing a kiss to her palm. "We'll finish tomorrow." Gabriella bolted, leotard under her jersey, heart hammering as she sped toward the field. She arrived late, mud-splattered and breathless, bat in hand for warm-ups. Coach barked orders, but her dad's eyes narrowed from the sidelines, suspicion etching his face. The game was brutal, opponents from Toledo, aggressive and unrelenting. Gabriella struck out twice, her focus splintered, until the bottom of the seventh, bases loaded, her turn at the plate. The pitcher wound up, ball whistling toward her like fate. She swung. Connected, a line drive that soared, hope flickering as it arced toward the outfield. But it hooked foul, then dropped into the glove of the shortstop. "Out." The crowd groaned, her dad turned away, and in the dugout, tears stung as teammates slapped her back with hollow encouragement. That night, the confrontation erupted. Gabriella stumbled into the trailer, cleats dangling from her fingers, only to find her dad waiting, the softball trophy from her Little League days clutched like evidence. "Who's she?" he demanded, voice low and lethal, holding up a crumpled note from Lila's pocket. "Meet me under the lights. Love, L." Gabriella froze, the world narrowing to his reddening face. "Dad, it's not. Don't lie to me. Some girl from that fancy-dancy place? Is that why you're throwing games? Throwing your life away?" His words landed like punches, each one dredging up memories of her mom, She was soft, Gabby. Too soft. Look where it got her. Gabriella's voice cracked. This isn't about Mom. It's about me. Ballet. Lila. It's who I am. The argument raged, plates rattling, until Marco's fist slammed the table. Over my dead body. No daughter of mine prancing around like some fairy. You'll quit that studio, or you're out. Gabriella's chest heaved, love and loss warring inside her. Then I'm out. She grabbed her duffel, stuffed with leotards and dreams, and stormed into the night, rain slicking her face as she ran to the only place that felt like home, the studio. Lila was there, practicing alone, her silhouette a beacon in the dark. They collapsed into each other, sobs mingling with kisses, the pas de deux unfinished, but their bond unbreakable. Dawn broke gray and unforgiving, Gabriella crashing on the studio's threadbare couch, Lila curled beside her like a shield. Ms. Elena brewed tea in silence, her eyes knowing. She'd seen exiles before, girls fleeing small-town shackles for bigger stages. Family heals, devushka, she murmured, handing Gabriella a mug. But soul? Soul you fight for. School was a blur. Rumors swirled like leaves in wind. Gabriella homeless? Dating that weirdo artist? Her dad called once, voice gruff, come home. We'll talk softball. She hung up, deleting the voicemail, and threw herself into rehearsals, Lila's presence a lifeline. The showcase arrived like a thunderclap, the barn transformed with borrowed velvet curtains and a spotlight jury-rigged from hardware store floods. Townsfolk trickled in, curious farmers, skeptical parents, drawn by free cider and the novelty of culture. Gabriella and Lila took the stage last, nerves electric as the piano swelled into Tchaikovsky's strains. They danced as one, lifts fluid as breath, turns synchronized in perfect harmony, bodies telling the story words couldn't, the struggle, the surrender, the soaring love that defied gravity. Gasps rippled through the audience. Her dad was there, in the back row, arms crossed but eyes wide. As the final pose held, foreheads touching, hands clasped overhead, applause erupted, thunderous and tear-streaked. Backstage, Marco waited, face a map of regret.
Gabby.
That was you up there. Not some game. His voice broke, the first crack in his armor. I pushed too hard. For her. For me. Gabriella stepped forward, Lila's hand in hers, steady. It's not about pushing, Dad. It's about letting go. He nodded, slow, pulling her into a hug that smelled of motor oil and old wounds healing. I'm sorry. For all of it. Lila watched, tears glistening, as father and daughter rebuilt bridges in whispers. Months later, under a December sky dusted with snow, Gabriella stood on the studio's makeshift stage again, this time for her Juilliard audition tape, Lila filming with a borrowed camcorder, their laughter echoing off the walls. Regionals had come and gone. She'd played her last game, bat hung in the garage like a relic, her dad cheering from the stands not for home runs, but for her. Acceptance letters arrived in spring, New York for both, scholarships woven from sweat and serendipity. Graduation night, they danced under string lights at the high school gym, not as outcasts, but as queens. Gabriella in a gown of midnight blue, Lila's arm around her waist, the town whispering not in judgment, but in quiet awe. In the end, Gabriella found her soul not in rebellion alone, but in the grace of forgiveness, the way love, in all its forms, could mend what expectation had torn. Her dad's old glove sat beside her pointe shoes now, a testament to paths diverged and converged. And as they boarded the bus to the city, hands linked, the horizons stretched wide, promising stages yet undreamed, where every step was a declaration. This is me, unapologetic, alive. The city lights of Manhattan blurred past the Greyhound's grimy windows like streaks of possibility, Gabriella's head on Lila's shoulder, the hum of the engine lulling them into a half-sleep. It had been 3 months since Milford faded in the rearview. 3 months of cramped dorms at NYU's Tisch, Lila majoring in visual arts while Gabriella chased her BFA in dance. Their tiny walk-up in the village a nest of easels and end-point blocks. Morning started with coffee brewed on a hot plate, kisses tasting of ambition and almond croissants from the corner bakery. Evenings ended tangled in thrift store sheets, bodies mapping new rhythms beyond the studio's mirrors. But freedom came freighted with its own weights. Gabriella's dad called weekly now, his voice softer over the crackle of long distance. "Proud of you, kiddo. Send a check for that recital costume." She'd laugh, throat tight, sharing snippets of triumphs, the off-Broadway showcase where her solo drew scouts, or Lila's gallery opening where a canvas of their river kiss sold for $500. Yet doubts crept in like subway drafts. Was this real? Could love this bright withstand the grind? Lila sensed it first, during a late-night rehearsal when Gabriella stumbled a shen turn, frustration etching her brow. "Hey," Lila said, catching her waist. "You're not swinging for fences anymore. Just be here." Their lovemaking that night was slow, reverent, reclaiming amid the chaos. Auditions piled up like snowdrifts, callbacks for Radio City, workshops with Alvin Ailey, each rejection a bruise on Gabriella's ego. Lila threw herself into murals for community centers, her work raw with queer narratives, women entwined in urban vines, defying concrete cages. One evening, over takeout lo mein in their sun-dappled kitchenette, Lila unfurled a sketch, Gabriella as a phoenix, rising from softball stitches into feathered flight. "For your next big break," she said, eyes sparkling. Gabriella traced the lines, tears pricking. "You're my break, Lil. Every day." They made love on the fire escape then, City Symphony below, stars winking approval. Christmas brought Marco to the city, his flannel out of place amid the holiday bustle, a duffel stuffed with homemade tamales and a wrapped box, a pair of custom point shoes, ribbons dyed Ohio cornflower blue. They walked Central Park bundled against the chill, Lila linking arms with him like an old friend, sharing stories of farm failures turned fertilizer for dreams. "You raised a fighter," Lila told him over eggnog at a midtown diner. Marco chuckled, gruff. "Nah." She raised herself. That night, as snow feathered the skyline, Gabriella danced for him in their living room, impromptu, to a crackly radio waltz, Lila joining midway, their pas de a bridge across generations. Marco's eyes glistened. He hadn't cried since the wreck, but love, it seemed, thawed even the deepest freezes. Spring unfurled in scandals and spotlights. Gabriella landed understudy for a Broadway revival of Cats. Ironic, she joked, trading fur for feathers, but the role demanded perfection, rehearsals stretching into dawn. Lila's exhibit at a Soho co-op drew queer activists, her pieces igniting panels on visibility, but the pressure cracked her sleep, nightmares of Milford's judgmental stares resurfacing. One fight erupted over forgotten anniversaries. Gabriella collapsing post-rehearsal, Lila sketching alone till 3 a.m. "I need you. Not the ghost of who we were," Lila hurled, paint-smeared cheeks streaked with tears. Gabriella pulled her close, apologies whispered into curls. "I'm scared we'll lose this in the lights." They rebuilt with date nights, picnics in Washington Square, hands held unashamed amid buskers and believers. Summer scorched the asphalt, bringing a heat wave that mirrored the rising tension. Gabriella's understudy bowed out, appendicitis, and suddenly she was in 8 shows a week, tights ripping under spot heat, applause a drug that hooked her hard. Lila cheered opening night, front row with a bouquet of wild roses, but the afterparty swirled with agents and egos, a producer's hand lingering too long on Gabriella's arm. "Just networking," she brushed off later, but Lila's eyes shadowed. "Be careful what you chase, Gabby. Some spotlights burn." Their intimacy frayed, quickies stolen between calls, conversations clipped by fatigue, until a matinee disaster. Gabriella twisted an ankle mid-jump, crashing to the boards in agony, curtain falling on screams. Hospital lights buzzed sterile as Lila rushed in, face pale, gripping Gabriella's hand through the ER wait. "I thought I'd lost you," she choked, as doctors wrapped the sprain. Marco flew up next day, hovering like a bear, but it was Lila who stayed, icing swells and reading aloud from dog-eared Plath. Recovery was a forced sabbatical, crutches clacking village sidewalks, Gabriella sketching choreography from a park bench, while Lila taught kids art classes nearby. In the quiet, truths surfaced, fears of outgrowing each other, the terror of love's impermanence. "We're not Milford anymore," Gabriella said one twilight, toes pointed experimentally. "But we're still us." Lila kissed her knuckles. "Always." Fall leaves carpeted the paths as Gabriella healed, auditioning for a contemporary troupe that fused ballet with street, raw, urban, unapologetic. She nailed it, the director citing her visceral fire. Lila's series sold out, a queer collective commissioning a wall for pride. Their one-year mark fell on Halloween, celebrated in costume. Gabriella as a swan warrior, Lila her fierce archer, dancing through the village till dawn, bodies slick with sweat and certainty. Marco visited again, this time with stories, not of losses but legacies. Your mom's locket. She would have loved this. Inside dangled a tiny photo of 3 women now, mother, daughter, love. Yet the world intruded, as it does. A tabloid snippet. Broadway star's secret Sapphic affair? Fueled by a blurry party snap, ignited trolls online. Hate mail flooded Lila's inbox, Milford echoes amplified in anonymity. Gabriella shielded her, deleting drafts, but the poison seeped, a cancelled gig for Lila. Whispers at Gabriella's rehearsals. Focus on the art, her director urged, but focus fractured. One night, after a particularly venomous thread, they lay awake, city hum mocking their silence. "Do we run?" Gabriella whispered. Lila turned, fierce.
"No."
"We rise." They channeled it into creation, a joint performance piece for a queer arts fest. 2 women navigating thorns to bloom, danced with such raw emotion it left audiences weeping. Winter's grip loosened into renewal. Gabriella's troupe debuted at the Joyce, her solo a tour de force of shattered cleats morphing into soaring leaps, dedicated silently to roots reclaimed. Lila's mural graced a pride float, vibrant with intertwined fates. Marco, watching via live stream from Ohio, texted, "My girls. Breaking barriers." Their love deepened, not in grand gestures, but the everyday, shared grocery list scrawled with hearts, lazy Sundays tracing tattoos of swans on collarbones. Graduation loomed, diplomas in hand, futures vast, but they chose each other first, rings simple as promises exchanged in a Central Park glade. In the hush of their apartment, snow tapping windows like applause, Gabriella reflected. From softball fields to stage lights, she'd unearthed not just her soul, but a love that mirrored it, resilient, radiant, redemptive. Lila stirred beside her, murmuring dreams of tours and toiles. To more, Gabriella toasted with cold tea. To us. The roar of the applause still echoed in Gabriella's ears as she and Lila tumbled out of the Joyce Theater into the biting December night, cheeks flushed from the curtain call and the cheap champagne at the after-party. Her solo had been the talk, critics buzzing about the raw authenticity of a girl who moved like she'd clawed her way from earth to ether, but it was Lila's hand in hers, warm and sure, that grounded the high. "You were magic," Lila breathed, pulling her into an alley alcove away from flashing cameras, their kiss tasting of victory and velvet. Gabriella laughed against her lips, the sound bubbling free. "We were. Together." Back in the village, their apartment glowed like a lantern against the slushy streets, fairy lights twinkling over canvases and costume sketches. Marco's care package waited on the stoop, jerky from the local butcher, a handwritten note. Saw the review in the dispatch. Ohio's finest. Gabriella pinned it to the fridge beside Lila's latest doodle, 2 figures leaping hand in hand over a chasm labeled haters. Laughter came easier now, the tabloid storm weathered into just another squall. But fame's double edge sharpened. Offers poured in for Gabriella, guest spots on Dance Moms reboots, endorsements for athletic wear that chafed against her queer identity. They want the tomboy ballerina, she confided to Lila over midnight ramen. Not the lesbian icon. Lila's eyes flashed. Then show them both. Or neither. Your call. Spring bloomed tentative, cherry blossoms dusting Washington Square like confetti from forgotten parades. Gabriella's troop toured upstate, Saratoga, then Buffalo, Lila tagging along with Sketchpad, capturing backstage chaos in charcoal strokes. Motel rooms became their sanctuaries, showers steaming with soapy caresses, bed springs creaking under explorations that mapped new vulnerabilities. In Albany, after a sold-out show, they slipped into a dive bar's back room, jukebox crooning Patsy Cline and slow dance cheek to cheek, oblivious to stares. This is forever, right? Gabriella murmured, fearing the question even as she asked. Lila's arms tightened. Deeper than that, love. Eternal. But eternity tested them in Summer Swelter. A major production, a queer retelling of Giselle, cast Gabriella as the lead, opposite a rising star named Theo, a non-binary dancer whose androgynous grace blurred lines. Chemistry crackled on stage, the director crowing about electric tension, but offstage, Theo's flirtations lingered, a hand on her lower back during notes, invitations to decompress over wine. Lila saw it all, her smiles thinning like watered paint. He's intense, she said one night, chopping vegetables with unnecessary force. Gabriella reached for her. It's work, Lil. You know that. The fight simmered low, accusations of drifting, defenses of ambition, until Gabriella canceled a cast dinner, choosing instead a picnic under the Brooklyn Bridge, where apologies flowed with strawberry wine. You're my Giselle, she vowed, tracing Lila's jaw. My ghost, my grace. They made love on a blanket as dusk fell, fairies horn-honking benedictions, reaffirming bonds in the salt-tanged air. Fall brought festivals. Gabriella's troupe at the Fall for Dance series, Lila curating a pop-up gallery in Chelsea tied to the shows. Marco visited for the gala, suit starched awkward, beaming as Gabriella whirled through a contemporary piece inspired by their river days, fluid, fierce, feminine. Like watching you grow wings, he said after, hugging Lila too. Over steak at Peter Luger, he opened up. Therapy's helping. Your mom. She loved fiercely. Like you too. Tears welled. Forgiveness, Gabriella realized, was a dance of its own. Steps forward, occasional stumbles, always circling back to center. Winter holidays glittered with chaos. A Times Square tree lighting where Gabriella performed flash mob style, Lila filming for her vlog, their faces splashed across morning news. Back home, the apartment sagged under tinsel and tamales, Marco joining via Zoom for New Year's, toasting with virtual flutes. But January's chill ushered doubt. Gabriella's agent pitched a solo tour, LA to London, clashing with Lila's residency in Berlin, a dream grant for street art. 6 months, Lila said, voice steady, but eyes stormy. We can bridge it. Gabriella nodded, but panic clawed, distance as the ultimate fouet, spinning them apart. The goodbye at JFK was a gut punch, hugs lingering, kisses salt slick with unshed tears. Write me sonnets, Lila teased, boarding past trembling. Gabriella watched the plane climb, skies swallowing her heart. Days blurred into rehearsals hollow without Lila's critiques, nights into video calls fractured by time zones. Lila's Berlin dawn, Gabriella's midnight. Letters bridged the gap. Lila's aerograms inked with vignettes of graffiti ghosts, Gabriella's taped with pressed Brooklyn leaves and choreography doodles. But envy crept. Lila's photos with collaborators, laughing under U-Bahn lights, Gabriella's DMs buzzing with admirers post-tour promo. Crisis crested in May, Gabriella's London stop, a tabloid ambush, ballerina's Berlin beau. Twisting a platonic dinner with a fellow dancer into scandal. Lila's call came furious. Is this what forever looks like? Gabriella flew standby to Berlin, pounding on Lila's studio door at 3 a.m., rain-soaked and raw. It's noise, she pleaded, collapsing into arms. They fought through dawn, yells echoing off brick, then whispers, bodies colliding in desperate reunion. I can't lose you to lights or lies, Lila sobbed. Gabriella held her. Then let's rewrite the script. Together. They did. Gabriella bowed out of the tour's Asia leg, joining Lila in Berlin for a co-created installation, dance woven with murals, performed in abandoned warehouses for underground crowds. The piece, entwined exiles, gutted viewers, two women navigating shadows to light, lifts defying decay. Critics hailed it avant-garde. Queer communities claimed it kin. Marco wired congrats. Proud. Come home soon. Summer found them back in New York, exhausted but electric, planning a life beyond spotlights, a studio of their own, teaching girls to dream unapologetically. Anniversary number 2 dawned golden, celebrated on that fire escape with mimosas and memories. From Ohio dirt to world stages, Gabriella mused, Lila's head in her lap. And back to us. Love, she knew now, wasn't a straight line, no jeté without the jump, no arabesque without balance. It was the messy, magnificent whole, conflicts conquered, graces given, souls synced in eternal adagio. Berlin's graffiti scars faded into memory as the plane touched down in Ohio, the flatlands unfolding like an old quilt stitched with familiarity. Gabriella gripped Lila's hand, knuckles white against the descent, not from turbulence, but the pull of roots she'd once fled. Marco waited at the gate, grayer at the temples, a sign reading, "My dancers," bobbing above the crowd. Hugs enveloped them, his embrace fierce, whispering, "Missed you girls." The drive to Milford wound through harvest gold, corn whispering secrets, the trailer park upgraded with solar panels he'd installed himself. For the future, he said, winking. Homecoming was a bomb. Ms. Elena's studio, now community center, buzzing with young faces, girls in hijabs and hoodies pirouetting beside farm kids in hand-me-downs. Gabriella guest-taught a class, Lila sketching portraits, their energy igniting the room. Like you too, Ms. Elena rasped, cigarette forgotten. Evenings found them at the river, picnic basket unpacked on the bridge, fireflies dancing attendants. Full circle, Lila murmured, toes dipping in current. Gabriella nodded, kissing her temple. But the circle's bigger now. Yet reconciliation's dance had stumbles. Marco's new girlfriend, Rosa, a librarian with a laugh like bells, joined dinners, her warmth thawing old frosts, but Gabriella caught her dad's sidelong glances at their clasped hands, a flicker of unease. Small town slow to change, he admitted one night over porch beers, stars pricking the ink-black sky. Some folks still whisper. Gabriella squeezed his knee. Then we whisper louder. With love. Lila, ever the bridge builder, organized a barn dance, studio alums and softball teammates mingling under hayloft lights, fiddles twanging into hoedowns laced with hip-hop beats. Laughter bridged divides, a former teammate, out herself now, pulled Gabriella into a spin. You started it, Reyes. Thanks. Summer deepened, bringing collaborations, Gabriella choreographing a local review, Lila designing sets with recycled jerseys, softball motifs twisting into tutus. Marco volunteered, hauling lights, his mechanic's precision aligning spots. One rehearsal, as Gabriella demoed a lift with Lila, he watched transfixed. Beautiful, he breathed. Like your mom and me young. The vulnerability cracked Gabriella open. Later, over tamales, she asked about the wreck, the unspoken scar. Marco's voice trembled. I pushed her to drive that night. Argument over nothing. Regrets my shadow. Tears flowed. Forgiveness, a two-way street, paved with shared grief. Fall's chill ushered ambitions, a documentary pitch from a queer filmmaker, chronicling Gabriella's arc from diamond to stage. Cameras rolled in Milford. Interviews with Marco, Ms. Elena, Lila's paint-streaked hands gesturing passionately. Loves the real choreography, Lila told the lens, eyes on Gabriella. Shooting wrapped in New York, premiering at Tribeca. Standing ovations, Marco dabbing eyes in the audience, Rosa's hand in his. Post-screening party swirled with toasts. A producer cornered Gabriella. Book deal? Memoir. But she demurred, arm around Lila. Our story's still unfolding. Winter wrapped them in white, holidays a tapestry of traditions. Ohio tamales fused with Lila's lax, her Jewish grandma's recipe. Marco learning to twirl Rosa in the living room. New Year's found them on the studio roof, champagne popping under moon glow, resolutions whispered. More travels, perhaps Paris for inspiration. But January brought a curveball, Gabriella's ankle, that old nemesis, flaring during a pickup game Marco insisted on, for fun. Our visits, ice packs, Lila's massages a ritual of care. Rest is resistance too, she soothed, reading aloud from Audre Lorde essays on erotic power as healing. Spring reawakened resolve. Gabriella launching a scholarship fund, Swan to Slugger, for rural queer youth, blending sports and arts camps. Lila co-designed the logo, a bat morphing into a bar. Applications flooded, kids like young Gabriella, dreams stifled by expectations. First camp, in Milford's Fields turned studios, buzzed with energy, softball drills dissolving into ballet circles, Lila's art stations birthing murals of hybrid heroes. Marco coached bases, his gruff cheers mingling with Ms. Elena's counts. Watching a shy girl, cleats swapped for slippers, leap free. Gabriella teared up. This is legacy, she told Lila, their kiss salt-kissed under oak shade. Summer's heatwave tested the fund's mettle. Funding dips, doubters decrying woke waste. Gabriella fundraised via online galas, dancing live streams from the barn. Lila's auctions of custom pieces, softball gloves painted with point wings. Marco matched donations from a shop, Rosa organizing bake sales. A viral video, a camper's testimonial. Ballet made me brave to love who I love. Snowballed support, celebs chiming in. By August, the fund thrived. Second camp slated for upstate. Fall festivals crown the year. The revue sold out the high school auditorium, Gabriella and Lila closing with their pas de deux. Evolved, now with ensemble echoes of camper steps. Marco in the wings, whispering cues. Rosa filming for posterity. Post-show, potluck in the gym, tamales, tiramisu, toasts to tenacity. A letter arrived from that first camper. Your story gave me mine. Out and proud. Gabriella framed it beside her mom's locket. As leaves turned, Gabriella and Lila plotted escapes. A sabbatical in Provincetown, queer haven for creation. Marco saw them off at the airport, hug lingering. Build worlds, girls. I'll hold this one. The Cape's dunes whispered welcomes, their rented cottage a cocoon of canvas and choreography. Days blurred into bliss, beach walks hand in hand, nights scripting a new piece, horizons entwined, danced on sand for local crowds. Love deepened in isolation's clarity, no agents, no audits, just them. Winter beckoned homeward, but with it, a proposal, not rings, but rings of commitment. A civil ceremony in the barn, Ms. Elena officiating in broken English vase. Guests mingled, troopmates, teammates, tamale trays, Marco walking Gabriella down the makeshift aisle, Lila radiant in Rosa's lace. Vows echoed. In leaps and losses, I choose you. Rings exchanged, simple silver, engraved with swans, the kiss sealed under rafters, applause a cascade. In the afterglow, Gabriella knew. Her soul, found on stage, was amplified in love's embrace, familial, romantic, communal. From softball's swing to ballet's bow, life's dance wove kinks into grace, proving that true strength lay not in conformity, but in the courage to pirouette toward truth. The barn's rafters still hummed with echoes of laughter and I do's as Gabriella and Lila honeymooned in the simplest way, a road trip up the eastern seaboard, rooftop tent strapped to Lila's beat-up Subaru, chasing lighthouses and lobster shacks. Acadia's cliffs met Atlantic spray, their first night under canvas stars a tangle of salt-stiffened limbs and whispered futures. Kid someday? or just cats and canvases? Gabriella teased, tracing constellations on Lila's back. Both, Lila murmured, with you as the center. Dawn hikes led to impromptu dances on mossy trails, Gabriella's leaps defying granite, Lila sketching the motion in fleeting lines. Back in New York by September's equinox, the world waited with open arms and agendas. The scholarship fund's third camp demanded planning, venues in the Berkshires, guest artists from Gabriella's troupe. Lila dove into branding, her designs bold with interlocking bats and bars, symbolizing fusion. Marco and Rosa flew up for the kickoff fundraiser, a gala at the Joyce, where Gabriella performed excerpts from Horizons, Lila's projections washing the stage in living color. Bids soared for auction items, signed point shoes, painted gloves, Marco's donation, a restored vintage Schwinn bike, for the next dreamer, fetched top dollar. "You're naturals at this," he told him over post-gala brunch, pride etching new lines on his face. October's chill brought collaborations closer to home. A queer youth theater in Brooklyn commissioned Gabriella to choreograph the Laramie Project, her movements layering tenderness over tragedy, lifts as acts of reclamation, falls as communal catches. Lila designed the set, abstract fields of wire and wildflowers, echoing Matthew Shepard's story with Hope's overlay. Rehearsals were cathartic, cast kids opening up post-show circles, tales of coming out in conservative enclaves, mirrors of Milford's shadows. One night, after a particularly raw run-through, Gabriella broke down in Lila's arms. "It hurts, how hate lingers." Lila held her fierce. "But we lighted up. Every step." November's Thanksgiving gathered threads. Marco and Rosa hosting in Ohio. The trailer expanded with a sunroom. For family, he shrugged. Flights home laden with pies. The table groaned under turkey and empanadas, stories swapping like sides. Rosa shared her own youth, closeted in the 80s, finding solace in books. "Love wins slow," she said, toasting the brides. Lila's parents joined virtually, her mom's quelling over photos, dad's gruff, mazel on the mazel. Post-feast walks cleared the carb haze, Gabriella and Marco lagging, his arm around her shoulders. "Never thought I'd see this happy," he admitted. "You taught me, Dad." December dashed with deadlines. Camp logistics finalized, Gabriella guesting on a podcast, from cleats to core to ballet, sharing vulnerabilities that resonated, downloads spiking fund contributions. Lila's solo show in Chelsea, entangled echoes, sold out opening week, pieces of their journey abstracted, softball seams unraveling into silk threads. Critics praised the lesbian lens on legacy, but a trollish review stung. Sentimental Sapphics. They laughed it off over mulled wine, but privately Lila vented. "Why's our joy always other?" Gabriella pulled her close. "Because it's revolutionary. We own it." January's new year birthed bold moves, purchasing a brownstone in Harlem, fixer-upper with a garden for Lila's studio and Gabriella's practice space. Gut renos commenced amid chaos, sawdust dances, paint-splattered kisses, Marco visiting to hammer beams, Rosa curating thrift finds for decor. Building nests, Lila quipped, blueprint in hand. The fun's camp launched flawlessly, 50 kids rotating sports to arts, testimonials pouring in. "I told my parents." They hugged me. One girl, echoing Gabriella's youth, gifted a drawing, 2 women lifting a third toward sun. Framed in the new foyer, it became talisman. Spring's thaw mirrored thawings, Gabriella directing her first full-length, Diamond Swan, premiering at BAM, a queer fable of a tomboy tutu who loves a painterly prince SS. Lila co-directed visuals, their synergy seamless. Rehearsals hummed with innovation, cast diverse as dawn. Opening night, house packed, Marco front row, tissues at ready. The curtain rose on gasps, fell on standing ovations. Reviews raved, a triumphant twirl of identity. After-party buzzed with offers. They fielded selectively, prioritizing passion projects. Summer solstice brought sabbatical. Europe bound, backpacking from Paris to Prague. Sane sunsets with baguettes and ballads, Lila sketching Eiffel ironies, Vienna's coffee shops fueling waltzes in rain-slick streets. In Budapest's baths, steam-shrouded, they soaked in history's heat, bodies buoyant, talking legacies. Our kids, if we choose, will know only acceptance. A thermal kiss sealed it, thermal waters witnessing vows renewed. Fall foliage framed returns, brownstone habitable, first housewarming a potluck of kin, troop, team, tamales. Marco announced retirement. Time for grandkid dreams, Rosa beaming beside. The fund expanded nationally, chapters in Texas, tales trickling back of barriers breached. Gabriella mentored remotely, Lila's workshops virtual, their impact rippling. Winter's hush held a secret. Lila's pregnancy test, positive after IVF whispers. Donor chosen from troop friends. Marco's joy paternal redux. A little dancer-painter, he crowed over FaceTime. Gabriella's hand on the bump, feeling flutters, wept for the circle complete, from solitary swings to shared swells. As snow blanketed the garden, Gabriella danced alone in the studio, belly yet flat, to a lullaby of Tchaikovsky. Lila watched from doorway, hand on heart. Their love, forged in fields and flights, bloomed eternal. Proof that souls found on stages could build worlds, one graceful step at a time. The first ultrasound's whoosh filled the Harlem brownstone like a symphony's swell, Gabriella's tears tracing paths down Lila's still flat belly as the technician pointed. Strong heartbeat. Due July. Marco's video call exploded in cheers. A Reyes Voss. Tamales on me. Rosa already knitting booties in rainbow yarns. News spread like wildfire through their networks. Troopmates toasting at rehearsals. Fun campers sending crayon cards. Baby ballerina. Lila glowed, sketching nursery murals of hybrid heroes, while Gabriella fretted over choreography adjustments. No lifts till trimester 2. Spring's renewal synced with swells. The fund's national launch gala at Lincoln Center. Gabriella emceeing in a gown that draped elegantly over her unchanged form. Lila beside in emerald silk, hand protective on the bump. Speeches soared. Stories from Texas teens blending rodeo with relève. California kids fusing surf with contemporary. Bids shattered records. A donor's million matched Marco's modest pool from shop sales. Post-gala, they waltzed the empty hall, Lila's laugh bubbling. Our legacies kicking already. Morning sickness hit like a rogue adagio, Lila bedbound some days, Gabriella brewing ginger tea, and reading aloud from children's classics, where the wild things are twisted with queer kin. Work adapted. Gabriella directing remotely for a Seattle workshop, Lila's commissions shipped to galleries. Marco flew in for a baby shower, trailer park style, potluck under the garden tent, gifts piling, point shoe rattles, painted onesies. His toast choked, to love that lifts us all. Rosa's ultrasound photo album began, pages filling with flutters. Summer's heat amplified aches, but July's labor came swift in a Hudson heatwave, Lila gripping Gabriella's hand through contractions, Marco pacing the waiting room like a caged lion. Dawn broke with cries. Elena Marie Voss Reyes, named for the studio maven, tiny fists waving like conductors. Gabriella held her first, tears splashing down as Elena's eyes, green like Lila's, blinked open. Our little swan, Lila whispered, exhausted radiant. Marco peeked in, voice cracking. She's perfect. Like her mom's. Newborn haze enveloped the brownstone. Sleepless nights of feeds and folds, days of discovery. Elena's coos sinking to lullabies, her kicks mimicking flies. Gabriella postponed tours. Lila shelved solos, their world shrinking to this miracle. Community rallied, troop babysitting for date nights, Rosa visiting with Ohio lore. Marco relocated part-time, bunking in the guest room, his grandfather hands gentle with burp cloths. Never knew this joy, he confessed one rocking chair vigil. Fall's foliage framed firsts, Elena's inaugural studio visit, gurgling at mirrors, Lila's return to canvas, baby strapped to chest, strokes bolder with motherhood's fire. Gabriella choreographed a family piece for a fund benefit. Cradle to coda, Lila dancing postpartum grace, Elena cameo in a bassinet prop. Audience melted. Reviews cooed over the tender triumph. The fund hit milestones, chapters in 10 states, scholarships seeding dreams. Winter wrapped them warm, holidays with hybrid cheer, Hanukkah gelt beside Posada Piñatas, Elena's first snowflake fascination. Marco's full move to New York cemented. Shops sold. Time for city grand pops. Rosa followed, their love a late-bloom model. Elena's babble echoed Mama G, distinguishing Gabriella's hugs from Lila's tickles. Spring 2030 bloomed with Elena's steps, wobbly toward the bar, hands outstretched. Gabriella caught her, spinning slow circles, Lila capturing in oils. The fund evolved, Elena as mascot, toddler testimonials. Dance makes me strong. Inspiring donors. Gabriella's memoir landed. Her soul on stage, ghosted with Lila's illustrations, bestseller lists climbed, proceeds fueling endowments. Summer festivals pulsed. Elena's second birthday, Barn Redux in Central Park, Marco grilling, Ms. Elena visiting, leading tots and flies. A new commission, Ballet for Babies, Gabriella directing, Lila designing puppets, premiered to giggles and gasps. Fall brought Elena's preschool jitters. Backpack slung, tears a drop-off, but pickup hugs fierce. Lila's TED Talk, Art as Anchor for Queer Youth, went viral, fund application surging. Gabriella guest starred on SNL, spoofing her softball days, Elena cheering from home with popcorn. Winter's hush held holidays anew, Elena's dreidel spins, nativity with diverse dolls. Marco's stories by firelight wove family lore, Rosa's songs lulling to sleep. As Elena dreamed, Gabriella and Lila slipped to the garden, snow-dusted roses nodding. From one soul to three, Gabriella mused, head on shoulder. Lila smiled. And counting. Our dance goes on. Elena's third spring unfurled with the ferocity of toddler tyranny, tantrums over tutus, midnight wails that tested even Gabriella's dancer's endurance. Yet amid the chaos, joy pirouette, park picnics where Elena chased pigeons with point-pointing abandon, Lila's murals now splashed with handprints in primary chaos. The brownstone thrummed, Marco's workshop in the basement birthing toy cars for Elena, Rosa's library nook stacked with board books on brave ballerinas. Village raising us, Lila quipped over coffee, Elena smearing yogurt masterpieces on high-chair trays. The fund's growth demanded structure, Gabriella stepping into executive director, Lila creative advisor, their days a blur of budgets and brainstorming. A national conference in D.C. showcased chapters, panels on intersectional arts, keynotes from alums now professionals, a trans tapper from Tulsa, a lesbian line dancer from Lubbock. Elena tagged along, charming delegates with garbled dance, chants, her presence a living testament. Post-con, Marco treated to monument strolls, his hand dwarfing hers. Your mom's built this empire, kiddo. Summer's heat-hatched adventures. Family road trip to Provincetown, tent pitches echoing honeymoons, Elena's sandy castles crowned with seashells. Beach bonfires birth stories, Marco's softball yarns twisted queer by Lila's retells, Elena rapped. A local queer fest invited Gabriella for a masterclass, Elena, assisting, with chaotic claps. Mini-me, Gabriella laughed, scooping her up mid-play demo. Fall's back-to-school bustle layered with launches. Elena's preschool recital, a frog-hop fiasco that had parents howling, Gabriella filming through tears. Lila's children's book, Little Sluggers Leap, hit shelves, Elena the dedicator. To Mama G and Mama L, my leaps. Readings packed indie stores, fun tie-ins boosting scholarships. Winter holidays amplified. A brownstone you'll log crackling, Elena's Silent Night, off-key but earnest. Marco's gift a locket trio, moms and Minnie, choked throats. Rose's puppet show, Elena as star puppeteer, enchanted kin. Elena's fourth year dawned defiant, questions cascading. Why two moms? Why dance, not dodgeball? Answered with honesty honed by fund kids' candor. Gabriella's Broadway revival callback clashed with Elena's fever. She passed, choosing forehead kisses over footlights. Priorities pirouette, Lila affirmed, soup simmering. Spring swelled with swells anew. Lila's surprise pregnancy, twins this time, donor the same. Ultrasounds doubled delights, 2 heartbeats, 2 dreamers. Marco crowed, already bunk bed shopping. Elena's big sister strut masked nerves, story times soothed with tales of trio teams. Summer's twins arrived amid monsoons, Luca and Sofia Vosreyes, boy-girl duo squalling in stereo. The brownstone ballooned, bassinets flanking the king bed, night feeds a relay. Gabriella rocked Sofia through colic symphonies, Lila nursed Luca to lullabies, Elena helping with burp song serenades. Marco and Rosa bunkered in, grandparent shifts seamless. Fall's frenzy, 4 under 5, but preschool eased Elena's load, fund board meetings Gabriella zoomed from playpens. Lila's postpartum palette birthed a series, multiples in motion sold for family funds. Winter wrapped the quartet, holidays quadruple-joyed, Elena directing a chaotic crush. Marco's tales now included twin tropes, Rosa's knits a rainbow riot. By the twins' first spring, rhythms gelled, naptime rehearsals for Gabriella, Lila's easel amid exercisers. Elena's kindergarten prep included fun visits, interning with crayons. A family photo shoot, 4 kids, 2 moms, 2 grands, captured chaos in canvas wrap. Summer camps for Elena. Fun Junior, blending bats and bars, her letters home gushing, made friends like me. Twins toddled into terror. Luca's climbs, Sophia's sprints, Marco's chase a daily daring do. Fall festivals featured family. Elena's school play, frog redux but fierce, Gabriella's guest spot on Sesame, twins cameo cooing. Winter's Wonder, Elena's snow swan sculptures, Luca Sophia's first words, Mama in harmony. As buds burst 5th year spring, Gabriella reflected in the garden, kids cavorting, Lila sketching nearby. From solitary soul search to symphony of souls, her stage now this, love's grandest production. The twins' second summer scorched with sibling sagas, Luca's Lego empires toppling under Sophia's stampedes, Elena arbitrating with eye rolls worthy of a tween. Yet the brownstone's garden bloomed resilient. Tomato vines Elena tended, Lila's murals now collaborative canvases, handprints layered like family strata. Gabriella's schedule balanced directorship with dad duty, fun teleconferences muted for mediation, timeouts turning to tendis. Marco, fully retired, Captain Chaos, park outings where he'd hoist twins on shoulders, narrating Grandpa's grand jetés. A milestone marked August, the fund's 10th anniversary gala at the Met, black tie with a twist, alumni performing mashups of their arts. Gabriella keynote, voice steady, from one girl's defiance to a nation's dreams. Lila's video montage flickered, Milford Fields to global stages, Elena narrating voiceover, love lifts. Bids boomed. Marco's auction glove, signed by stars, fetched fortunes. After party, kids in tuxes and tulle, dance till dawn, Elena partnering Luca, Sophia spinning solo. Fall's foliage framed Elena's kindergarten leap. Backpack battles won, bus rides brave. Report cards glowed. Her essay, My Mom's Dance, read aloud, tears tumbling. Twins' terrible twos terrorized, potty plots and nap refusals, but first sentences sang, I love you, Mama G. Winter holidays heightened, a brownstone nutcracker staged by Elena, twins as mice mischief makers, Marco Clara's uncle. Lila's book sequel, Twins in Tulle, launched to toddler tots, readings rowdy with rhymes. Third year spring sprouted solos, Elena's ballet elective, Point dreams deferred but plies precise. Luca's soccer skirmishes, ball more weapon than teammate. Sophia's story hours, devouring dragon tales. Gabriella choreographed a kids' fun piece. Tiny triumphs, premiering at camp, minis mirroring majors. Summer escapes. Cape Cod redux, beach days building sand studios, Elena directing dune dances. Marco's fishing fables hooked twins, Rose's shell hunts sparking Sophia's collections. Fall festivals flourished. Elena's school talent show, a self-choreoed solo earning bows. Family Halloween as swans in arms, trick-or-treats triumphant. Winter's hush held heartbeats. Luca's first fever dream, Gabriella rocking through night. Sophia's snow songs, Lila harmonizing. Fourth year dawn dazzled. Elena's lost tooth fairy letter. Dear Tooth Fairy, send ballet slippers? Answered with ribboned ribbons. Twins preschool plunge. Luca's line leader lordship, Sophia's snack time sovereignty. Spring showcase. Fun youth gala. Elena MCANG mini MES. Twins flower tossing. Gabriella's off-Broadway revival callback. Passed for parentals, but a film doc offer beckoned. Soul Sisters, chronicling their clan. Summer spotlight. Doc filming in Milford, barn birthplace buzzing with cams. Marco's tours nostalgic, Ms. Elena visiting schooling stars and steps. Elena's interview stole scenes. Love's like dancing. Hold on, let go. Spin together. Fall's fervor. School plays plural. Elena's Witch Wicked. Luca's Lion lackluster. Sophia's Tree thoughtful. Lila's gallery group show. Familial forms. Featured kid collabs. Winter wrapped revelations. Elena's first crush confession. A girl in class, like you and Mama L, met with hugs and haiku. Marco's memoir pitch. From dugout to dance floor. Ghosted by Gabriella. Fifth year spring sword. Elena's competition debut. Bronze but beaming. Twins tandem trikes terrorizing sidewalks. Summer saga. European echo. Paris parks with picnics. Prague puppets for play. Elena's Eiffel etchings. Luca's Louvre lions. Sophia's sane songs. Fall's fanfare. Family album published via fund. Generations in Grace. Bestseller Baby Steps. Winter's warmth. Holiday hearthside. Elena's violinings. Twins tambourine tantrums. As Elena turned 10, garden gathering grand. Cake candles flickering on decades' dreams. Kids cavorting. Lila and Gabriella entwined. Marco toasting. To souls staged in love. From softball solitude to symphony of selves, Gabriella's arced eternal. Proof that every fall fuels the rise. Every embrace the encore.